Hello.
Yep. I know. You can send that for now. Hi, everyone. It's loud. Thank you for being there. I know second day, it's not easy, especially after lunch. But thanks God, our presentation is kind of lightweight, I would say, and it's more of an introduction and maybe some useful tips that you could use to build better products. But first things first. For those who don't know, we are in Europe currently, right? This is the area we are interested in. So at the moment, we are in Prague, right? So we are here. Then there's Kaunas in Lithuania, that's where I'm from. And then there's Riga in Latvia, that's where Daria is from. And what's important there is that those are two different countries. With these are two different nations, two different cultures. However, we are considered sibling countries and we share some common interests. For those who know Daria from the social media, I think she likes cats, but that may be a little bit of an understatement, I think. And for those who know me, I mean, I built my personal brand on top of this. So I also enjoy the company of cats. And one day, me and Daria, we talked like how we can connect this passion for cats and the technologies we love and make a living out of that, maybe earn our first million and, I don't know, just enjoy our lives. Then we started like brainstorming ideas about cats and you know where this could lead us. And the thing is that what we noticed as well is that people choose their pets based on their looks or on their personality, like in this picture or in this picture, which is Charlie Chaplin, of course. And yeah, and even there are official studies that shows that people choose their pets based on personality. For instance, cat people are more genuine, they're more kind, they're a little bit more open-minded. And we thought that, okay, that may be a good concept for the dating app. And we call that Perfect Match. Perfect Match is, yeah, it's an app where you choose your partner based on the pet that this partner has. And how it works, really show, spooky. It works like one of those popular apps. I have no idea, you know, I don't remember the name of that app, but basically you swipe left or right and you choose your partner based on that. Also, buttons works there as well. So this is our prototype at the moment. And in this session and in this talk, we'll just share some general ideas on how you could build this product, how you could experiment with your user groups, and how you can actually reach that first dollar from your users. So yeah, Daria will start by overviewing the analytics and Firebase remote config part.
Okay, can you hear me? Great. So this is where stand-up ends, and we start talking about boring stuff. And we will be teaching you, well, not teaching, sharing some of the lessons that we learned while trying to earn our first million. We're still on our way to get there. And let's say that we did the first step towards the first million, and the user has downloaded our app. So what happens next? Okay. I keep forgetting that I actually have the screen over here. Okay, so a very common thing that you often see is an onboarding screen when you open the application, and the goal of this screen is to introduce the application to your user and maybe convince them to start using it. And if you see this screen, you see the cat, maybe you enjoy it, and you're, okay, I definitely want to see who's that owner, and you start swiping. This would be the best case scenario. But also, maybe you dislike it, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to close the app, which isn't really good for our goal, right? And there are many reasons why people can choose to not continue using the application, and we would like to find out maybe we could make something better. Maybe we could increase the user conversion from first-time openers to actual users. And we can experiment. For example, we can test which cat performs best on the onboarding screen. I mean, I don't know if anyone would not enjoy any cat, and if you don't like cats, then we need to talk and reconsider our friendship. But maybe it impacts, and we would like to test it out. So how can we do it? And the answer to everything is with analytics, and in our case, specifically with Google Analytics. And Google Analytics is what Firebase uses under the hood, so whenever I say Google Analytics or Firebase Analytics, I will mean exactly the same thing because it's basically the same product. And the beauty of Firebase product is that they integrate very well with each other and they build on top of each other. And the foundation for the features that we will be implementing today is Google Analytics. But analytics is such a broad topic that it deserves not just a talk of its own, but probably a whole conference of its own, so we will be only brushing up the things that are relevant specifically for our use cases. And as the first step, in order to start using analytics, you need to enable them, and you can do it in two ways. First of all, when you create the application initially, you can select the toggle in the Firebase console, or if you haven't done it the first time, you can just go to your settings and enable them later on. Then on the Flutter side of things, because we are obviously building a Flutter app, we need to add a dependency. As with every new Firebase service, you add a new dependency. And that's it, because Firebase already starts collecting a bunch of events for you. There's a lot of default events related to ads, related to subscriptions, related to user journey in your application, such as screen views. And you can also overview them in the Analytics tab in the Firebase console, all of the events, user properties, and all of the different customizations. Speaking of which, we of course want to log custom events, which we can do also by adding whatever events we want and need for our use cases. And to remind you what we're doing, we're trying to track which cat performs best on the onboarding screen. So we are going to do it with the help of analytics by logging an event that's called start swiping. And we also need additional parameter called cat index. So this will be the index of the cat image that was on the screen when the user pressed the button. Great, so now that we have it in analytics, the next question is how to actually change this index, how to experiment with different indexes. And option one would be to a naive approach, release a new app version every week with a new index. First, we would need to change the index in code. Then we would need to deploy the application to both stores. Then we would need to wait for approval from stores, which is very notorious for rejecting for random reasons, can take very unexpected times, and in general can be very inconsistent. Then we need to track analytics for at least 1 week to gather some meaningful data, depending on the amount of users that we have and how often do they use our application. And also we need to remember that maybe not everyone updates instantly, so we can get inconsistent data because some people will be still using the old index, some will be already using the new one, and it will be just leading to inconsistent results. And we repeat it 5 times because we have 5 cat images, 5 indexes to experiment with. This doesn't really sound very great, but Firebase Analytics has already helped us to make our decisions smarter. Maybe it can also, in general, Firebase help to make those decisions faster. And the answer is obviously yes. And that is Firebase Remote Config. So Firebase Remote Config is a very simple in its notion idea, but it's a very powerful tool. So what it is, it's a collection of key value pairs that is stored in the cloud on the Firebase servers. So you just set up different values. For example, they can be numbers, they can be strings, they can be booleans, or they can be even more complex like JSON, and you can do whatever you want or need with it. So they live in the cloud, and you connect it to your application, and then you fetch this data on the fly, and you can change it on the fly, and it will also be updated in your application without you actually needing to download a new version. And you can, of course, overview all of the parameters for remote config that you have in the console. It's very user-friendly. You can see all things that are applied to it. I'm spoilering you a little bit of what we will be implementing today. And when I said simple, it really is because under the hood, Firebase remote config is just a JSON file, which is describing the parameters that you use and some metadata around them. So you can also just store them for whatever reason if you want on your device, upload the JSON, roll back to old versions, do whatever you need to do because it's, as I said, just a JSON. And in order to start using it in our application, we once again add a new dependency. Then we go to the console, we add a new parameter. In our case, it will be cat index of type number, and you can add an optional description, and we will describe just the values that are allowed in this parameter. And we need to set a default value, which will be 1, because we will be starting with number 1. And from the code side, all we need to do is we need to call the Firebase remote config instance, get integer, pass the index, not the index, the key of the parameter name, and you get yourself an integer which you can just then use to do whatever you want, control whatever you want. In our case, control the image on the onboarding screen. Okay, I see some photos being taken. Okay, can we move on? Great. But the next question is, okay, we have created the parameter in the console, and we have described it in our code, but how do we actually get those changes into our application? For that, we need to publish those changes in Firebase remote config tab, and Firebase will remind you about it if you haven't published the changes with this big red thing that says publish changes. And there's a couple of things that you need to know about fetching those changes and parameters into your application. First of all, you need to actually fetch them and activate at least once when you launch your application or whenever you need to do it. And in code, it looks like this. There's a couple of things that we care about. First of all, we actually call fetch and activate. We have to look from bottom to top. I don't know why. Sorry for this. But an important thing here is the set config settings method, because in there we describe the time that the config will cache our values for in the application. And minimum fetch interval, which is the caching time, is 12 hours. The problem with this is that if you set it to 0, you will most probably run into some quota limitations and you will have problems. So it's not allowed and not advised to set this to 0. And this can lead to inconsistent results if we cache something for too long, especially if it's something critical, which we'll be talking about soon too. And maybe there is a better way. And recently, Firebase has made an addition to remote config, and this is the real-time listener. So what you do is, after you first initially fetch the data, you then open a connection, and every time there are new changes published, you get an event in the listener, and you can fetch the data again, update, and do whatever you need to do in order for your application to use this configuration. In code, it looks super simple. Again, Firebase remote config instance, attach listener, activate the new parameters, and then do whatever you need to do. Okay, and a small demo how it would look like. We have a cat index, which is number 1 currently. As we can see, Spooky is performing. And we can change it to number 4 in the console. And almost instantly, the image in the application changes to, I don't remember the name of this one. But
Snowflake.
Okay, so that's Snowflake. And then we can test it out. And the beauty is that we did not need to push any code changes, and the user did not need to download any update to our application. But what if we want to do something more complicated and we want to limit the usage of this parameter, for example, make it like a seasonal promotion or something like that? So we could specify maybe a location, a language, or date, or maybe all of them all together. For that, we have conditions in the Firebase remote config. This is a tab that you open, and you can create all kinds of filters and apply those filters, which are called conditions, to your parameters, and then your parameters will have different values depending on this condition. For example, we want to create a Valentine's Day promo, which will be only from 13th of February to 15th of February. So what we do is we add a condition, give it a name. We can give it the color code because we can create a lot of conditions, and this would be easier to distinguish between them visually. And then we add filters for before daytime and after daytime. Now we need to apply it to a parameter, and we create a new parameter called show Valentine's promo, which is a Boolean, and default value is false, so it's always false. But then we go and apply this condition. We select the one that we have just created. And whenever this condition evaluates to true, also the show Valentine's promo Boolean is set to true. We publish it, and whatever is happening in the app, we'll just fetch it, and when the time comes, it will be true. When time stops, it will be false, and we don't need to do any changes in code at all. And you can, of course, overview those conditions in the console. You can also see which conditions are applied to which parameters also in the console, so it's all very convenient. You can also see percentage distribution of this condition. In our case, currently it's 0. Not that many users, I guess. And we can do even more complicated conditions, like we want to create something exclusive for iOS users, new iOS users in Latvia. So what we do is we add the application, which is iOS, we add the country, which is Latvia, and we also say that the first time, this applies only to those users for whom the first time opening was on 22nd of September. And this is also backed up by analytics event. And as I said, we can overview them in the console. And there are many different conditions that you can use related to app, its versioning, to countries, to languages, and all of those kind of things. All right, back to stand-up.
I'm so happy that Daria is my co-speaker. I'm here just for the easy part. So, so we learned how we can adjust the properties of the app and to basically start testing it with the real users. And now I'll talk a little bit more about how to make safer decisions, or how to at least reduce the risk by doing those changes or doing any risky changes. We did a mistake early on. This is our premium onboarding screen, or the premium paywall screen, I would say. And we promised that we'll introduce the video call feature. That wasn't a very wise decision, because now we need to implement it. It's not a problem, of course. Several, long nights, maybe 3 nights, 4 nights, we implemented it. And as very exciting developers, we just release it to everyone, because why not, right? It's working on our machines. And we didn't realize that, yeah, there is a bug over there. On some tablets, we get a blue screen, which is not nice, right? And there's no way back now. What we need to do is basically we need to make a fix for this app. We need to go through this long release process again, and hopefully people will update the app. That's also not always the case. There are several problems there. And the thing is that if you do not have any monitoring set up, or you do not have any insights in your app, basically the first indicator is negative reviews for your app, and you see those reviews coming to your app, and yeah, we made a mistake. So it's important when you think about it. Actually, these numbers are from the official report from the Bugsnag company, who are creating such reports, and they're taking care of all of those safety measurements. So even 84% of people actually deletes your app after seeing 2 or more crashes. And as you realized, our goal is to earn money out of this, and people leaving the app is not a great indicator, I suppose. So the first thing that you could do is to introduce some monitoring for your app. So thankfully, Firebase has this service, and it's free, so you can add Crashlytics to your app. And to add it to the Flutter app is very easy. So basically, you need to override or to assign 2 callbacks. So one is meant for the Flutter error on error callback, which catches all of the errors or exceptions happening in the Flutter framework layer. But if you need to catch errors that are happening in native layer, let's say you are using plugins, or you have some custom code in native layer, so these errors will be catched by the platform dispatcher callback that you see there on the screen. So these 2 callbacks is enough to set up the basic Crashlytics configuration for your app. And it's good, because now you release your app and you start noticing that, okay, crash-free sessions, graph is going down, meaning crashes are happening, and you see this before noticing negative reviews. So you have some, a time frame where you can fix these issues and fix the app overall. Also, not to actively monitor this app and to look at this dashboard 24/7, you can also set up notifications. So in case there's errors happening in your app, you'll get a notification in your email or other sources that you set up, and you'll be notified once anything wrong happens. Hopefully, that never happens, but this is life. And then you can think like, is it possible even to build your app in a way, or introduce new features in an app in a way that it will prevent from bugs, or you will avoid those somehow, or maybe you at least reduce the risks of, or reduce the damage done after there is a bug in your app. So for that, a good way is to use feature flags. And for those who don't know, feature flags are basically as any other Boolean flag in your code, like if-else statement, right? But these flags could be controlled remotely, so meaning your app is there on your users' phones, and you could remotely enable or disable a particular flag that enables or disables a particular feature. That's why it's called a feature flag. And even smarter way how you can do is, so this feature flag is, either enables the feature flag for all of the users or disables for all of the users. But an even smarter way to do is to maybe enable this feature flag for 20% of your user group, and then once you see that, okay, no new crashes in the app, no new errors, everything relatively fine, you can increase this value from 20% to 40% and increase this threshold until you're happy enough about your feature. You just set up this feature flag for 100% of your users, so everyone could use this. Luckily, Firebase, it has this feature out of the box. All you need to do, as Daria showed, you need to create a condition, but this time you should choose this specific filter of user in random percentage, meaning that all the users that are randomly assigned to this from 0 to 20% percentage group, they will get this feature flag enabled, and how they will get that is that, again, in the same way as Daria already mentioned, you create a new parameter, and when you assign it, so by default the feature flag is false, meaning this feature is disabled by default, but for this particular condition of 20% of users, you enabled it to true, so only this group will get this new feature. And in the code, very straightforward, you just get this parameter, and I think that's the beauty in Firebase API, that it's not different from any other parameter that you're using in your code. You're just using it, and if you are among this 20% or whatever percentage you said group, you'll get this feature flag enabled, and for the others, it's disabled. And you see that we either enable or disable the video call button. And actually, we can try that out. So we'll call spooky. So we chose that this spooky oh, by the way, the feature flag is disabled now. So we need to enable. You see the call button is there. Let's make a call to the spooky. Yeah, we are here. And yeah, spooky, that's nice. Cool, so that's how you introduce features. And if I, also, there is a chance that I can disable features, so if I disable this feature flag, we do not see this feature anymore, and no crashes or anything. So that's how you make safer decisions with Crashlytics and with feature flags. So now Daria will actually tell you how we can earn out of this, possibly.
Okay, nice. Now that we have a premium feature, we can start selling a premium subscription and turning our users into subscribers. And while doing that, we have learned another lesson, how to make our decisions even smarter and even faster with help of A/B testing. So we wanted to implement a payable screen, and our designers came up with two options. This is our first option, which describes all of the features that we have, describes all of the plans that we... nope.
All the plans?
No, I mean... describes all of the plans that we have and has all of the information which is required to make a decision whether we do want to make this purchase or not. And I, as a rational person, would probably prefer something like this because it describes all of the things that I care about, and I can just say, okay, I want the video call feature, so I'm definitely purchasing this. But designers said that people in general are more emotional creatures, and the less thinking they need to do and the less decisions they need to make in order to consider something, the more likely they actually to purchase something. So they came up with a different option, different design completely from the first one, and we wanted to test them out. So let's do some testing here, and I don't see anything because it's a black screen for me, but okay. You have to choose one. You can't choose 0. You have to choose one option, and put your hand up if you would more likely buy a subscription if you would see the first purchase screen. Okay, we have some rational people here. Okay, and I guess everyone else is emotional. Put your hand up if the second screen seems more for you. Okay, no, actually less. Okay. What we have just done is called kind of A/B testing. So we have two variants, A and B, and we did some testing, gathered some statistics, and understood that in our case, the first version would probably perform better. and would give us more subscribers than the second version. How can we do that in our project? Well, first option, we could, the same way like Mangirdas showed, we can create percentage conditions and apply those conditions like 50-50, have two different values, simple and detailed, and they will be then applied to all of the users, and then we can go to analytics tab sometime later, check the event, and see which was the paywall type and so on, make some analysis, maybe extract those analytics into a file, and finally make a decision, which would work, but as I said, requires quite some manual work, and maybe there is a better way. And for that, we have another service on Firebase. It's called Firebase A/B testing. And in order to use A/B testing, you actually don't need to add any dependency or anything like that in code, because it's built on top of remote config. So we have a regular parameter, as we have already seen, just a string, which is paywall type and has two values, simple or detailed. We use it in code. And then, in order to actually track the performance of those screens, we want to add some analytics. And we have three critical events. First, when the paywall screen was, in general, shown to the user. Second, when the user pressed the X button, so they decided not to purchase the subscription. And the most important for us, when they decided to activate the trial. So we will be logging those three events. And then we go to Firebase console, we go to A/B testing, and we create an experiment. In order to do that, we can select what we want to experiment with. As I said, the beauty of Firebase product is that they integrate very well with each other, and you can create A/B experiments with notifications, in-app messaging, and in our case, remote config. So you see this little wizard, and you need to, first of all, enter the name of the experiment. Then you need to select the targeting, and this is one of the limitations, because you actually have to select one specific application. You can't do it just on all of your users. Maybe it will be changed in the future, maybe not, we'll see, but you can create two same experiments and change the app, and then they will just run in parallel. And we also need to set the amount of percent of the users that will be enrolled in the experiment, and in our case, we just want to test on all of them, so it's 100%. The next important thing is the activation event, is when the user gets enrolled into the experiment, and this is based on analytics, and we will select the show paywall screen event. So whenever the user sees the paywall screen, they will be enrolled in the experiment and see which one performs better. And we want to set the goal. The goal of the whole experiment is to activate the trial, so to make the conversions higher, to have more users turning into subscribers, and we understand that based on this activate trial parameter from the analytics. We can also track additional parameters if we want, if we care about them, and we care about one such parameter event, which is hiding the screen. And the final thing is we need to actually set up variants to test with. In our case, we have only two. It's simple and detailed, but you can select up to 8. Like the name A/B testing just says that they are in parallel. It doesn't limit to actual 2 values. And Firebase allows 8, as if I remember correctly. All right. And then we start the experiment. And sometime later, we can go to our A/B testing tab. Without doing anything manually, we see this whole dashboard with all of this information about our 3 users, and that the baseline, which was simple in our case, paywall screen performs better than the detailed version. And if we had much more users, and we would see, for example, that baseline performs 90% better than the other options, we would just roll out this simple paywall screen to everyone and definitely have much more subscribers than we would with the other options. And the beauty is that it's all automated. You just set up the experiment once, you wait some time, add some more premium features during that time, and you then check the data sometime later. Great, but maybe we can do something even more smarter and even more faster. And for that, we have personalization, and it wouldn't be a talk given in 2023 if it would not mention AI. So personalization is a recent feature built on top of Firebase Remote Config, and it uses machine learning algorithms under the hood to determine which parameter is better for which user. So it's personalized for specific users and not optimized for everyone. And this is the difference of personalization to A/B testing. So the goal in A/B testing is to find one single value that performs best for everyone. For example, if we would be testing our cat images and we see that this, what his name?
Let's call him Snowball 2.
Snowball 2. You have something with snow? Okay. So let's say Snowball performs the best, and 99% of cases when he's on the onboarding screen, users start swiping. So we can roll out him to everyone, and everyone will be happy. But there might be a situation when different cats perform differently, and maybe 20% for each. And it would not be rational to have only one onboarding parameter for everyone, because that would lead us to only 20% of users actually starting swiping. So we can use personalization, and it can run indefinitely. So like forever, you just set it up once and then it runs. And users will get personalized values when the algorithm learns about their preferences, and everyone will be happy. And in order to do that, it's again very simple. You also don't need to add anything else to your Flutter app. You just do it in the Firebase console. You go to the parameter, for example, the onboarding cat index parameter. And we want to add a new condition, but in this time it's not a condition, it's personalization. Another wizard, so we select variants in similar way as we did with A/B testing. We can provide several values to be personalized. I'm sorry, my sight is really bad. I don't know, I forgot my glasses, so I have to be closer to see what it says. We need to select the events which we want to personalize, for which we want to optimize, which is the start swiping event, and we want to increase the amount of this event. Target condition. Now we need to select the audience that will get enrolled into this into personalization. For example, maybe we want to experiment only with users from Latvia or from Lithuania, but we want to personalize it for everyone, so the onboarding personalization audience is just everyone, like 100% of users on all platforms in all countries. And of course, we need to name our personalization. Great, we create it, we launch it. We can also see it, that it's applied in the console. And sometime later, as we can see in the Google I/O video, we can also check the results of the experiment, and we see that the personalization has increased both the target event and also user engagement time in the application, which is both great. So it works. But also it can happen that AI is still, humans are still not conquered by AI, and we still make smarter decisions ourselves, and personalization doesn't perform. So what you need in general is recommended to have at least 10,000 weekly users with at least 1,000 potential conversions per week, and at least 2 weeks to experiment with for the algorithm to learn, for this to show actual relevant results. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Again, I'm just here for the easy part. So summary. So I think it's valid to put the whole summary in this way. So if you want to make smarter decisions, just use analytics and Firebase remote config, because these are the essential tools for that. If you make safer or more conscious decisions, use Crashlytics and feature flags. And if you want to actually earn money and improve your product and optimize it for faster, use A/B testing and personalization. And remember that the real power or the main benefit and all of the benefit that you could get is by using all of them at once, or at least some of them, by combining those and not individually. So if you are using those tools, all of these in the list are free at the moment, then you should achieve better results in your app. That's it from us. Thank you for being here. One more thing, this is not a scavenger hunt QR code. This is a QR code for the feedback form, which would take about a minute for you to fill out, and that would be really valuable for us to improve as speakers. So please consider doing it, or just skip this. I think we have some time for questions, unless Daria wants to.
Yeah, before we continue to questions, also one more last thing from me. All of these slides were made with Flutter, and if you want some cool demos with calling to Spooky, you should use Flutter deck package made by Mangirdas. So, yeah, this was Flutter.
I think we'll publish. Okay, we are not in agreement with this. And I think we will need to polish some stuff, but I think we will just hide some API keys and maybe we'll publish those slides on GitHub as well a little bit later this week or the next week. Question time, if you have any. And it would be better if you dedicate a question to me or Daria if you think that we are, I know, more, I know, we know something more in that field. It's really hard to see hands because there are none. If not, then we'll be there for the remaining day, and I'm here even tomorrow. If you meet me in the city, you can ask questions. So, thank you for being there again. And